it would have got that. And we are joined. You definitely want to mute my stream. You can actually pause my stream and hi, by the way.
Hey.
So you don't have to hear echo. So let me turn this down, my music, and let me get this all sorted. We have Dan Dixon on here. There he is. You guys can see him. With you, so you're a developer of the game that I'm trying to show everybody and everything.
Yes.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good. Do you want to tell us about this whole thing? Because I don't really get to use it too much.
Sure. Yeah. I'm Dan Dixon. I am the creator and director of Universe Sandbox. It was a personal project I started working on 10 years ago. It's turned into this crazy thing. Universe Sandbox is a physics-based astronomy software that masquerades as a video game. You can use it to ask fantastical what-if questions about our universe and get mostly true-ish results from the simulation that we run in real time on your computer. So
people are really liking the models behind you.
Yeah, that's the Lego Saturn V. Yeah, that's my favorite. Yeah, that's very great. Yeah, super cool Lego set. So
yeah,
it just came out this year. Yeah.
Everybody's like Saturn V, so they all know. Can you see chat?
Are you able to see it? I've got it up as well.
Okay, so. Awesome. Yeah, because there'll be questions coming in through there. So how long has this actually been a thing? Universe Sandbox. I know it's Universe Sandbox Squared. So
we're actually we're actually in the midst of rebranding to just be Universe. We're going to rename the old one Universe Sandbox Legacy, and because the plan is for this to be a forever project at this point. So there is no third version in the works, and so but how long has it been? Yeah, so side project that I started working on for fun 10 years ago. I was like, oh, this is good enough to use as a portfolio piece, so I put it up on the internet. Originally, I was just calling it Planets. Was like the name of the project. Came up with the name Universe Sandbox. The domain was available. Put it up. Showed it to PopCap. Interestingly enough, I had an interview with them. I was already working in video games here in Seattle. Had an interview with PopCap. They didn't hire me, which was the best thing that could have happened because I kept working on this instead of, it was just a side project. But then at that point, it was up on the web. Started selling a couple copies a day. Did that for like 2.5 years, and then got Steam, which is a video game distribution service, the largest desktop distributor of video games in the world. They agreed to release it in 2011, and the first hour of sales was better than the previous few months of sales on my website. And I used that money to hire a couple of people. It kept selling. I hired a couple more people the next year. And we've now been working on the sequel for the last 6.5 years. And then we launched in early access on Steam 2.5 years ago, and are continuing to put out updates and working on it. We've got a complete physics rewrite in the works. Steam Workshop, which is a feature that integrates with Steam that will allow users to very easily share simulations with one another, create them and then share them, and then browse other people's simulations. So that's coming. Localization, so we're adding multi-language support, so you'll be able to dynamically switch to Chinese or Japanese or Russian or Spanish or Portuguese. Also with some really cool features that'll allow the user to like click on a word. If the translation is off or they've got a suggestion and there's some problem, you'll be able to like click on a word and get a web page where you can provide a comment or alternate translation suggestion. And then also, and then the big feature that we've been working on, kind of the big kind of simulation feature is something we're calling Planet Grids. Planet Grids is so the current simulation, like you've got the Earth, or well, what was the Earth up there. And if you click on it and look at the properties for it, it's represented by a single temperature. And Planet Grids basically divides the planet into a whole bunch of grid points of various resolutions, and each grid point can be a different temperature. Right. This will let you do things like put the planet really close to the sun, and tidally lock it and then melt one half of the planet without melting the back half. Or you'll be able to also, each grid point can also is also kind of like the building block for other future features that we want to work on, kind of improving the climate simulation. It's also kind of the precursor, kind of the building block for what we're planning, life simulation, so that each grid point can have a certain amount of life, or kind of biotons, or some sort of measurement of life that can then spread from one kind of grid point to another. So it's a pretty low resolution simulation, but it really results in much better results than our current system.
Yeah, and there's already people that are getting super excited about the whole workshop thing. I saw that a few times in here.
Yeah, to be fair, just like some type of, just for clarification, for some games, workshop means like modding and all these other things. Our initial release of workshop is only going to allow users to share simulations with one another. So we're not going to support modding or like custom models yet, but certainly custom models is in the works, or I should say is on the roadmap. Modding is a more complicated issue. We'll see how that we'll see what happens with that in the future.
Right. Yeah, it's still cool though. Everybody's saying that's actually really cool. And then I have Melon Lord said, talk to him about how it's programmed. I want to know more about the data structures used to model the planets and such.
Yeah. So, I mean, at its core, it's essentially a gravity simulation. So, and a gravity simulation is actually pretty simple. And that's the first version that I worked on by myself. It's basically just that, with some very simple collision handling. The new version is that plus, we're calculating like what the temperature would be for on a given planet's surface, given how far away it is from a star, depending on how bright or how kind of the luminosity and the temperature of that star. You can put water on the surface of planets. That water will then either freeze or like evaporate or stay in liquid form, depending on the temperature on the surface of the planet. That's also something that planet grids will enhance. Again, right now, planets only have a single water level. Planet grids will allow us to have water levels for each grid point. So you'll, let's see, not with the initial version, but eventually, kind of like Planet Grids version 2, I imagine you'll be able to like take a sphere of water and smash it onto one side of a planet, and then watch the water like kind of slowly kind of wrap around the planet. So you could like take a sphere that's like the total mass of the oceans of the Earth, and then add smash that, say, into Mars, and then see, and I assume that would probably cover, that would likely cover the entire surface. Or you can smash it into Earth, and then you would get like pseudo representative water levels. Let's see, other crazy stuff we're doing. Tidal forces, so you can do things like if a planet is inside, or a body is inside of another body's Roche limit. Is that right?
Yeah.
It'll actually kind of cause that body to begin breaking apart.
Awesome. That's good. That'd be really good to be able to show.
Oh yeah, so that's if you that one is like, if you want to see a really quick demo of that, from the main menu, open physics, the category. So yeah,
I'm checking out your Tesla Roadster right now. This
this
is a new thing you guys just added.
We did. To be fair, this does not actually show, because it's not just the car. What's actually floating in space is the car plus like the
Spaceman
second state. Well, there's also a spaceman inside of it, but it's like the car itself is like attached to like the highest stage. Is it the second? Gosh, I should know. Second stage of the rocket. So it's the car plus like a pretty substantially large thing attached to the bottom of it. But interestingly enough, like in Tesla's photos of it, they never really showed that. Anyway, we intend to add that. We have not added that yet. So
someone asked, is the car is that to scale?
The car is to scale, yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it is. Yeah, it is properly scaled to everything else. So yeah, everything in the Universe Sandbox is to scale. You can you can add like individual dice or baseballs or basketballs. We also have the Great Pyramid of Giza properly to scale that you can drop in. Also moons, stars, black holes, galaxies, although our galaxy handling is in desperate need of improvement on the
So
list of things to do.
yeah, so you were telling me what to do with the menu option to show what you were talking about.
Oh yeah, so yeah, and then the physics tab. So like
Mm-hmm.
that's what, like 3 over
Yep.
is what you're on all. And then it's, and maybe there's a delay.
There is a
And then
delay.
it's yeah, and then it's just the very first one there. Earth and close moon.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So yeah, the very first one, and that shows the moon.
Being
Yeah,
ripped
and
apart.
that shows the moon being ripped apart because of Roche fragmentation, or yeah, because of the tidal forces on the moon. The close side of the moon and the far side of the moon are being pulled on at different amounts, which causes torque on the planet, which causes the whole thing to get ripped apart.
Mm-hmm.
Totally
So
crazy. So.
that's awesome. That's a good, yeah, that's a really good demonstration because I get a lot of people that are like, how do Saturn's rings form? How do they stay that way? Because they are falling in, but yeah, that's awesome. Let's see.
So that's and what's like one thing that we really try to do as far as kind of like the simulation itself is that is not a pre-canned simulation. There's nothing in there that says break this body up. It's breaking up because it's close enough to that of the moon. So in any simulation, I mean, you could open up the scale model of the Earth and the moon, move the moon in, and it will start breaking up. Or if you add planets too close to one another, they will break up by default, or like, because that's what the simulation is doing. So there are options so you can like turn off different elements of the simulation, but kind of by default, like everything is turned on and everything runs within kind of the same simulation space. So there's not like a climate mode or a Roche fragmentation mode or a collision mode or a gravity mode. Like everything's running simultaneously.
And so, do you guys have plans? And we were talking about this earlier when we were going over I guess you could say the gravitational waves.
Yeah, like that we detected from the collisions of
LIGO.
black holes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've actually got a blog post where our one of our astrophysicists wrote up, because she actually worked on that project tangentially, and it doesn't. Yeah, I guess the short version is they're so small, and
They are.
yeah, they're so small.
We have to detect them with lasers.
There's not a great way to demonstrate them inside of Universe Sandbox. And the same way that like people ask, like, are you going to add Einsteinian or relativity to Universe Sandbox? And for like on the scale of the solar system, the only thing that anyone that you would notice would be that Mars would be off by like a fraction of a degree every 100 years from its orbit. Or what did I say? Mars, Mercury, excuse me. Yeah, Mercury would be off by the slightest fraction that you could barely tell, and that you would only be able to tell by measuring it. And that would only be if you ran the simulation at a high enough degree of accuracy that you wouldn't cause that shift in position because of just running it at too high of a time step. In general, with simulations, the faster you run them, the less accurate they are.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd have to run that. So, which is why adding general relativity is not high on our priority list. Something that would perhaps be interesting with that would be when you're orbiting a black hole. The black hole is so massive that it actually twists space around it, and things that are in orbit in the same direction that the black hole is rotating
Mm-hmm.
actually speed up, and things that would be in orbit kind of opposite that would go kind of against the rotation of the black hole would actually slow down. So that's something that we've talked about adding. That's again a ways away on our roadmap, but
Yeah, so it said simulating the black hole in Interstellar only took 800 terabytes of data to render, and in like a month to render. Yeah, so it sounds totally doable. Get on it.
Right. Yeah, I mean that is the other interesting challenge, is that we are trying to do everything in real time on a modern day desktop or laptop, and actually one of the other crazy initiatives that we've been working on, and we've actually been working on now over the last year, is a mobile version. So
Oh,
iOS,
wow.
so bringing Universe Sandbox to both iOS and Android. We don't have a time on that yet, but that is very, very much in the works. And what's really amazing about it is that it is the full desktop experience on your phone. It is the same. It is the exact same code and interface that you have on your desktop, but on your phone. So we're not even like scaling it back or cutting out features or anything. So here's just this is a terrible demo way to show it, but
Oh,
there it
no.
is. So yeah,
Wow. That's amazing. Everything mobile. I know,
yeah.
on a phone. That's incredible. Is he going to use Swift or Objective C?
So yeah, there's the let's see, there's the similar kind of Earth and many moons demo that you were running earlier. So yeah. Anyway, so yeah, coming to the phone as well. So
Yeah, so that's what someone just asked. Are you going to use Swift or
oh, it's Unity. Unity. So we're the 3D engine that we use is Unity for
for the
um,
iOS?
well, it's for the desktop version as well.
Okay.
So yeah, Unity is a kind of a development environment that's cross-platform, which is kind of like one of the big features of it. So you write your code once, and then you can make a Windows, Mac, and Linux builds. Also supports iOS, also supports Android. They also have support for all the consoles, although we have no official plans to support consoles yet, but certainly something we're also talking about.
Awesome. Sounds like React Native is what someone just said. Awesome. And let's see. And so it's probably C sharp. Everybody. So I have a lot
Yes.
of coders in here.
Yeah, so most of the code is C sharp, but we've also written our own. The bulk of particularly the gravity physics is all native code, so C++. So it's our own custom native physics library, and that's all C++. And it runs and the reason we've done that is because it runs so much faster that it's worth kind of separating out some of the heaviest parts of the code to run in a native library.
Awesome. Yeah, because I know I just don't have a lot of time to. One thing I wanted to have is like just a simulation that would already be created is two black holes orbiting each other. Everybody wants to see that, and I told them like this is a physics thing. Like it's not as easy. Like you can't just put one here. You have to actually do a little bit of the math and figure out, to have them rotate around each other like a binary black hole system. Or else one will just keep careening off. So, that's one of the things I've been trying to work on, but I don't have enough time in my day anymore. But you guys, do you guys make these or do you guys take these from other people? I might be asking questions I know the answer to, but it's okay because I do that.
Most of the simulations that are kind of shipped are ones that we've created. Yeah, I mean that's one of the reasons why we're really excited about Steam Workshop is because that's going to make it really easy for users to share these with everyone else. But almost everything that's in there is stuff we've created, and interestingly, a lot of them were ones that we created or that I created kind of as like extreme test cases. Like what would happen? There's some under the physics category, for example, toward the bottom. There's some weird ones where you have the Earth where it's locked in place, and then and I'm not suggesting go look at it because some of the results are pretty weird. But
now I want to look at it.
Yeah. So it's like what does our simulation in its current state? What results does it give with this bizarre, this bizarre scenario where in a number of these, a number of the bodies are locked in place, kind of using, I guess you could call it magic. So they're not that way. They don't pull together. And then it's kind of like, well, what is the kind of the road fragmentation code or the tidal forces code, like what does it do? And so anyway, so you end up getting some like kind of weird results where one's spinning and spitting off objects. But yeah, I mean that's one of the really interesting. Yeah, there you go. One of the and so in some ways, like these are like simulations that are like kind of point out edge cases that are like in some cases I'm like I'm not really happy with how that works because that doesn't seem intuitively what would actually happen. And so, and many, a lot of these have been created for the purposes of like okay, let's kind of point out an issue that we then want to solve. And in many cases we have, like with the kind of the whole collision, there's a set of, one of the tabs is collision, and there's just a whole bunch of different examples of just two bodies colliding. And that was really created kind of for our own testing purposes to allow us to continuously refine and improve the quality of collisions, which is something that is still ongoing.
Yeah.
It turns out it's hard to make a general purpose simulation that works at all scales and all time scales with all different size bodies.
Right. Yeah, no, and that's the collision thing, I think would always be something that's, yeah, a work in progress. Because even in movies, I mean, putting this in an actual simulator, and then things get really bright, and then I blind my chat, and then they hate me. So good. I know. It's great. It's actually wonderful. This is one of the ones. So I use this a lot for star comparison sizes. Like, that's what I like to show this with, as far as, this is how big our star will get roughly. So yeah, this is available in Steam. You guys can get this in Steam. Amazing what you guys are creating. Yeah. And I mean, I think Vsauce does some stuff on YouTube with this, right?
His latest video, he used this as to show a few examples. He replaced the sun with a black hole of equal mass to kind of show that turns out everything still orbits. And then he also showed how two baseballs will pull together over time.
Yeah, so he has some really cool. I think there's stuff in here, doesn't it say? And you guys stay up to date with things like Oumuamua in 2017. When everybody was talking about that interstellar asteroid that came in, they'll release things on it, so I can actually talk about current topics that are happening, which are nice, and kind of
yeah. So there's the path. Man, it's too bad it's not coming back, because wouldn't it be exciting to get some close-up photos of whatever that thing was? So.
Yeah, and that was so cool though, because we were able to observe it for a bit. But I mean, that path actually was really close to us for a bit, so we were able to look at it. And I actually had someone on who talked more about it. He's the director, Dr. Dan Holman of the Minor Planet Center. So he came on here and talked all about it. But yeah, so they update things like that. Obviously, they have the Tesla up there too. Still feeling ignored. Sorry. And let's see. So I'm wondering if anybody else has questions. Vsauce here. He's not in the chat, I don't believe. Let's see. You guys have any questions about it? Or is there a certain simulation you want me to pull up that's one that you're most proud of? Or that you like the most?
The one Neptune orbiting Saturn, or just opening up Saturn and its moon, or opening up Saturn and then dropping Neptune in next to it, or there's kind of a preset called Saturn and Neptune. Just under all, if you do a search for Saturn, it'll pull it up. Go back to the alt tab and then just type in Saturn there in the search bar right above it.
Okay. And so what do you do with this one?
Well, yeah, one. Yeah, Saturn Neptune. There you go. Yeah, it'll just work. So this shows Neptune. I mean, you can also place this, but this kind of, and it shows the rings of Saturn getting ripped apart by Neptune.
Oh, wow.
Cool. And then also, because of tidal forces, the two planets end up heating each other up and start glowing after just a little bit, which would also happen. Yeah, because I mean, they are like stupidly close. The one thing that we're not doing is that the two planets would like at the moment, all of our planets are perfectly circular. So Saturn actually, just in its native state, because it's spinning, is like 10% wider than it is tall, or something like that. It's a little bit wider than it's tall because of the spin. So it's not perfectly circular. And then in this extreme case, with these two large bodies really close to each other, there would be more like kind of teardrop shaped, or like kind of pinching toward each other. And so they would not remain as perfectly circular as they are here. That's another one of these long-term wish list ideas that I hope we eventually get around to implementing. So yeah, the feature list of things that I want to add and that makes sense to add to this is just infinite, which is one of the reasons why the plan is just to continue to work on this indefinitely. So we're, you know, what's amazing is that we're selling enough copies. You know, we have not grown the team so large, and we're continue to sell enough copies that we're able to continue to pay the team every month to keep working on this. And as long as as long as we're able to do that, that's my plan. So yeah, and so in addition to, say, we've also got a complete rewrite of physics, which is going to in the works. So this native library, we've actually been working on a complete rewrite. It's going to be a lot faster, and also that'll kind of set the ground for like making. There haven't really been any serious gravity improvements in a while. So that'll be coming soon. And here you can see they start to.
Yes.
The two planets are now heating up from the tidal forces. Yeah, so that's in the works. Better handling of two equal-sized bodies colliding. I mean, and the the list goes on and on as far as like crazy stuff we're working on. We've hinted at we've shown a couple showed a couple screenshots of another feature that we're working on, which is being able to simulate space elevators and Dyson spheres. So like basically, if you've ever played like a bridge builder game where you build bridges out of tethers, and then you like run cars across it, and it's a physics simulation, so it kind of bounces. So imagine those kinds of tethers in space at epic scales with real material properties, and that then will let you build things like space elevators, Dyson spheres, ring worlds, halo rings. So totally crazy epic scale megastructures that are physics based that you can then shoot asteroids at and destroy.
Yeah, everybody's like, wow, this is really cool.
So that, to be fair, that is, let's say, a year plus off. There's still we've got the physics working, but there's a lot of work to do to make that look really good and to make it kind of editable. And anyway, there's a lot of work still to do on that. But like the life simulation is another feature that we're that's off in the distance. But being able to like seed life onto a planet and then watch kind of the green spread, that'll make kind of the idea of terraforming work a lot better. We actually just brought in the last 6 months, we brought another astrophysicist on the team. So we have 2 astrophysicists now and a numerical physicist. We also just brought on an audio developer because like our sound handling, sound in space, there isn't sound in space. So this is like one of the interesting, like, but when 2 planets collide, you really want to hear that thunderous.
I know. And I've had to explain that before. People are like, well, I thought there was no sound in space. And I'm like, there isn't, but like, I'm okay with this. I'm totally fine with this.
You will be able to, you'll be able to flip a switch to like go back into realistic audio mode, which is quiet in space if you would like. So, but
no. I like the big booms and thuds and everything. And it is supported in VR, guys. I've played it in VR a few times. And yeah, it's pretty good. Like I had a moon bubble gun.
Yes. We also have one of our developers is solely dedicated to VR, and he's currently working on a rewrite of our kind of a reimagining of our UI in VR, and so hopefully that's going to be a lot better. That's still months away as well. But I mean, I guess the larger point is we are in active development. We are hiring to work on this project alone, and I'm super excited about it. So
yeah, and it's a useful tool when talking about this stuff. And I know you guys used to have, and I maybe have just not been able to find it since, but you had a scale of all the stars, like large stars in a line in a row. And I don't know what happened to it. I don't know if it got taken out, but then I think I was going crazy. But you had one with like stars to scale.
Well, if you just open up any simulation, you can always hit chart mode, and that puts everything in a line. Or just like nearest like if you I need to clear out Saturn there. But if you type like go back to all and then like search for near or star, and that'll pull up some of the different star simulations. And then you could then you hit chart mode. Well, so you need to open up a simulation with stars in it
and then do
hit
chart mode.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, I noticed, I saw earlier you were playing with Space Engine. One of the big differences between Universe Sandbox and Space Engine also super cool. is that in Space Engine everything is just there. So you can like fly at anything and see it, and it kind of loads the data in as you get near it. With Universe Sandbox, you're loading or creating a discrete set of objects, and then a physics simulation is actually running on those. So in this case, you need to actually like load or add a whole bunch of different stars into the simulation, and then you can hit chart mode to line them all up.
Someone just says, "Is that Dan Dixon?" It is.
Yes.
So I have chart mode, and I want to show what UI Scuddy would be on the HR diagram. Can I do that?
Let's see. So
I'm hiding behind it.
Let's see. So if you go to like open up like near like one of the simulations with like 400 stars in it. So like there's one called like near and bright stars. I think that would probably be a good one.
Okay, I think I know which one you're talking about. So
if you did search for under, yeah. So go to open and then all. Go back to the all category and then search for near. Any AR.
Nearest 100 stars.
That works too, or nearest 400, and that'll give you a variety of stars that are just there, and then you can hit chart mode, and that'll line them all up. Or you could also, and at this point now, you could just simply add a couple other stars of your choice into the simulation. Probably want to exit chart mode to do that.
So the HR diagram.
And then that's going to be So now choose one of the presets that's hidden behind your. There you go. Yep, that's it.
Yeah, that would have been. I wish. Okay, so I think the brightness of these stars starts to make me lag a bit. So, what do you guys usually recommend as far as?
Well, Well, we're drawing a lot of stars. There's a few problems with our. Well, the fact that it's lagging is our fault, not your fault. Because we're actually running like procedural services on all. There's too many stars, and we don't have proper handling to kind of scale back the surface detail that's being.
I think everything just went supernova.
I think two of them just collided. Yeah, I think that's exactly what happened. So if you zoom out, it should look really pretty.
Really bright. My whole chat's like, "What's happening? I'm sorry." Oh man, yeah, it's really pretty, guys. Oh, let's just pause that. Let's just pause that. Hey, can you pause, please? There we go. Okay.
There it is.
There it is. So does anybody have any questions about this? This is amazing. And that's a good way to actually show that with the HR. Everybody's, wow, Big Bang 2. I mean, that's a lot of energy that just got released, but yes. This is very different. So that's what I kind of like about having these two programs, though. So having Space Engine where things are just there, and then something else where I can be like, hey, let me show you a star comparison. Or now I know I can actually use the HR diagram within here, but I need to pause it is what I need to do if I'm going to start talking about it. And then someone, thanks, Joe. My mod says, this is why Sky isn't a good god. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's wonderful.
Very few of us are. I am not a good god either. So.
Yeah. This is his universe. This is they all create this one. What other games have you worked on?
I worked on. So I started in video games 12 years ago at a subsidiary of Midway Games. Midway has since gone bankrupt and was sold to Warner Brothers. But for them, I was working on a game called This Is Vegas, which was a GTA, a Grand Theft Auto clone style game based in Vegas, and it never shipped. The company went bankrupt before it shipped, and Warner Brothers acquired it and then canceled it. It was a game that they spent $40 million on, or some crazy amount of money. So I worked on that one for a couple of years, and then I also did a game called the Daring Game for Girls for Wii and DS. The Wii version is much better than the DS version. It sold like 15,000 copies. I think it didn't do very well, but I'm proud of it. I think it is not Wired magazine called it the only game for preteen girls that they would actually buy for their preteen daughter or niece. And there's a lot of astronomy trivia in it, actually. That's my fault. And then I guess I also tangentially worked on a couple Midway games, Stranglehold and Area 52, but only kind of like in helping with communication with effects work, like particle effects work for those games. But yeah, so, and then the original Universe Sandbox, and now this one.
Yeah. Okay. This makes me feel better. He's making games for a while, obviously. And then let's see. Someone said
I did not work on Mortal Kombat. Yeah, so Midway owned Mortal Kombat, but I did not work on Mortal Kombat.
So Bugs Moran said, Dan, I use Universe Sandbox from time to time in my classroom. Thanks.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, this stuff is really good to show this kind of stuff with. And since Dan Flow and Pros asks, since Dan is into simulating the universe, ask him what he thinks about the theory that our universe itself is a simulation within a simulation, like simuception. I guess.
I mean, it's not.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I don't think there's any great evidence that that's true, but
Right.
It certainly isn't unimaginable.
Right.
So
that's pretty much the same answer I get. Is like I like thinking about things like that, but we don't really have any evidence to back it up. We can't test it.
Well, I mean, I would, that would be the craziest thing to discover. If there was good evidence that was true, that would be pretty wild. I don't know. I mean, that would that change the experiences that we all have, or the kind of the intrinsic meaning that we get from just sharing in this crazy experience?
Right.
I mean, even if it is a simulation, I mean, it doesn't really, if anything, it just makes the universe like, wow, well then where is this? Like, what universe, if anything, if that was true, it would only make things more amazing and bizarre and beautiful. So
yeah. No, they talk about things like you take a certain, choice in this, like a different simulation, you take a different one here. What would that do? I've actually thought about that one and read about it a bit, just because I get asked a lot on my stream, and naturally you fall into those holes too a little bit, but I don't go too far into them, only because, again, I like that as more of a thought experiment more than, because we just can't test that yet, guys, but it's okay. So now everybody's like going to go on. So why? That's a really good question, actually. Why did you create Universe Sandbox? What was the inspiration behind it? The why? Wow.
Oh, thank you also. I don't think I ever, thank you for having me on, by the way. This is super fun.
Thanks for being on.
And thanks for talking about space and cool things. Let's see. So why did I make it? So way back in middle school, my dad downloaded a gravity simulator over a BBS dial-up modem, and I was quite fascinated with it. And he helped. And then, I don't know, a few years later, but there weren't many options. There was like very little control of it. And so he helped me actually write a simple gravity simulator when I was in high school. And I spent a couple weeks on that and was kind of fascinated with the idea of how you could add other bodies and kind of mess up orbits. And just, I don't know, the motion of orbits I thought was just super fascinating. How this very simple, because the formula for gravity is very simple. It's, it's a constant, divided by like the mass of the object times a constant divided by the distance between those two bodies squared is the acceleration of one on the other. And then you just kind of do that in a loop over and over and over again on both bodies, one against the other, or, if you have more of them. And then that's it. It's multiplication and division over and over and over again in a relatively simple way.
Mm-hmm.
And you get this really beautiful, amazing motion that also describes how the planets orbit. And I just found that to be super interesting to play with. And so in high school, I spent a couple weeks and played around with a project. 5 years later, I picked it up again when I was in college, spent a couple weeks on it just for fun, abandoned that, did something else. Another 5 years passed, I picked it up again. And then the last time I picked it up, I never stopped working on it. And that was 10 years ago.
That's awesome.
So why did I make it? Because gravity is really fun to play around with. And I suppose, it originally was a side project for fun, but now it's become, I suppose there's, and now it's become like, oh, well, somehow nobody else has taken a gravity simulator to like the extreme end that we have with Universe Sandbox, and
right.
So. It turns out it's a really great way to like reveal the beauty of the universe. Like, what better way to show how amazing the universe is than to make it this interactive thing that you can ask fantastical questions with or of.
Mm-hmm.
And then also kind of a commentary on the fragility of the Earth and how delicate our planet is. So you can there's a climate simulation in there where you can actually adjust the carbon dioxide level on the Earth and add more carbon dioxide and cause the planet to heat up, or get rid of all the carbon dioxide, and then actually the planet will freeze over because there's no greenhouse effect anymore. So now it's become so. I suppose then you could also say there's a slight business interest too, because now it's like the goal is also to sell enough copies to keep the team going. But that's only because I want to keep making this thing and I want to make it more and more amazing. And so in some ways I'm still making it for myself, but also, man, it's the coolest thing and other people love it. And it's what a great way to share. This is a long rambling answer. What a great way to share how amazing the universe is, but then to create this tool that lets everyone actually experience the universe in a way that they haven't ever before.
Yeah, so it sounds like that's a big thanks, Dad.
Yes.
You know, because
Well,
that's
well,
awesome, though.
a nod to both of my parents for encouraging me to kind of to follow my passions and interests. So
And
yeah.
space was it for you when you were a kid? You liked space a lot?
Well, kind of. I mean, yeah. I mean, my dad was a big fan of space. Interestingly enough, I don't have any formal training in science officially or programming, but somehow that's what I'm doing now full time. So
Yeah, so I was gonna say self-taught is like I told
basically,
people, yeah, it's a thing that is also respectable because everybody I get a lot of, like I'm a computer science grad and they're like, why are you talking about astronomy? So, and that's when I say, you can learn a lot of things if you just really sit down and do it. And that goes with coding. So a lot of people
yep.
ask like how they can get involved with this. A lot of the coders I know are self-taught. I would say the majority are actually.
Well,
So,
and when I started coding, the internet did not exist,
right.
and it was a lot harder to like to find the answers. It has never been easier to get into coding, and now you've got this like, so we use Unity, which is, well, if you make a, so we pay for it, but you do not have to, you can make something with Unity and not pay a cent.
Hmm.
And it is an amazing development tool that does all these crazy things. And then there's a dozen other free programs as well. But yeah, it has never been easier. So to get into programming, and there's tutorials and
I know there's
resources.
stuff all over, all over. That's what I did too. Like that's how because I wanted to make sure if I was actually going to go and spend my money to get that degree, that it was something I actually really liked. So I had to test that out. Someone asked what language you started off with.
So
That's gonna date
the
him.
the original language I started out often was QBasic, which is Quick Basic, which was a DOS based version of Basic, and then I moved to Visual Basic versions 3, 4, 5, and 6, and then I moved to VisualBasic.net. And the original version of Universe Sandbox that was released on Steam in 2011 is in VB.net, so VisualBasic.net. I believe it may be the only game on Steam at the time. I believe it might have been the only one that was ever released on Steam in VisualBasic.net. Yeah, and then the new version is now is Unity and C#.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for stopping by. I appreciate it, and also, glad to hear that everything's going well. Someone just asked if you guys are hiring. I'm sure you guys would probably let everybody know on your blog. Yeah.
I mean, if you're amazing, you should send us an email. Yeah, I mean, we are not actively, we don't have any active. Yeah, if somebody amazing came along, I would say there's an opportunity, but we are not actively seeking. I suppose actually the one thing we were maybe looking for is, we haven't actually like posted this anywhere, someone to work on like curriculum, like writing curriculum. Like we're kind of wanting to, I mean, so we are by no means abandoning kind of our current path, but we want to kind of more heavily dive into the kind of the education side and make sure that Universe Sandbox is extremely useful in the classroom, and that there are lesson plans ready to go for teachers that would want to adopt it for the classroom. I mean, that's, if anything, the big hurdle. So someone said that they had used it in the classroom. Well, undoubtedly they had to figure out how to integrate it. And as a teacher who's already has way too much to do already, taking the time to figure out how to use this, integrate this tool into the classroom is, anyway. So someone to help kind of create literature or guides or tools to make it even more easily usable in the classroom. So that's something we are kind of looking for, but we haven't officially posted anything. But if you're amazing, please reach out.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And also, I don't know if you guys could do this. Maybe a magnetar.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the short answer to yeah. Ask me about any feature, ask me anything, and the answer is not yet.
Soon, yeah. TM.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So, yeah. No, it's just one of those things where we have the pulsars and we have pulsar parties. So every now and again, someone's like, "Can you show me a pulsar in this?" And I want to show them things like magnetars. But yeah, that's me speaking as wanting to show people about different kind of neutron stars. But yes, he's taking requests? No, he's not taking requests. I'm being funny. Smoke and chill. Shut up.
Well, I'm certainly curious to hear what You're welcome to send us requests. We've got a pretty booked schedule this year, but I want to do it all. I have a really hard time saying no to new ideas. So, but yeah, soon trademark. Yep, definitely.
Yes, that is a real thing. And someone says merge with KSP.
Well, KSP is also super cool. We are. Yeah, the tethers stuff that I talked about, being able to kind of epic space megastructures, is a precursor to kind of a vision of turning Universe Sandbox into a construction set that allows you to work with more human scale things. So I'll maybe leave it at that. So
yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Well, again, also that's don't get too excited. That is a long way off. But
don't worry. I can totally tell. These are things that are just going to be. There's other things coming up later whenever they have time for them. Yes, I think a lot of people understand that things don't just get churned out. Yes. So, but thank you again so much, and I'm sure we'll have you back on here if you ever want to hop back on here.
I'd be totally down.
All right. Thanks again, Dan.
Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you as well.
Well, and thanks for showing off my favorite piece of software.
Of course. Yeah. Thanks for having it.
Yeah. Let us know. Yeah. What features could we add that would make it more useful to you? So
absolutely. Everybody's like, brain hurts. Okay. Well, good night. Have a wonderful evening.
Cheers.
All right. Bye.